Welcome back to the Little Black Whiskey Book. Today's page is dedicated to a local distillery, well, local to myself in Chicago. It had its roots starting in the very Ravenswood neighborhood of Chicago itself, but they since moved, and the Journeyman Distillery now has multiple locations, honestly, for distilling because they've grown so much, which is incredible. Like, good for them. So they have the Last Feather Rye, which is their very first and their flagship offering. So we'll be diving into that today, just as a starter, right? I would love to get up there and actually visit the distillery itself and do a tour. I think that would be a lot of fun. So they're up in Three Oaks, Michigan, which isn't too far away if you're in Chicago. It's a simple day trip, right? So get a couple of friends, get someone to agree to drive you. That's the hardest part. I don't know if they offer driver drams, but I figure if you're the one who's offering to drive for a day trip, they could at the very least get you a bottle of the Last Feather Rye. So I was initially drawn to this because I identify as a rye girl. I've been branching out lately, trying different things, but my heart always goes back to rye. So I was very curious to try this offering out of Michigan, of all places. A lot of distilling seems to be done in like the Kentucky Bourbon Trail area, Tennessee, all that. And there's some great stuff coming out of the Portland, Oregon area. I know some people in the desert country, in like Texas and Nevada, are doing some things. But I realized there's some really nice options close to home beyond Kaval. Like, I do enjoy Kaval, especially their rye. But this is the only other local distillery, really, that I think I've tried. So I don't know what took me so long. And honestly, why is it taking us so long to pour a drink? So as you can tell, there's not a whole lot left. I have been enjoying this. Figure I needed to share a glass with you guys before I ran out and share my thoughts and opinions on this delightful little whiskey. So I'm going to be a little biased, right? Hometown favorite, comes from around here, so I can't exactly say this is a completely unbiased opinion. But come on, we all have a special place in our hearts for things that are close to home. So this is a really nice dark amber shade, which if you're into the coloration, like this is just lovely right here. Oh, and the smell of it, it just feels very vanilla, very light, very dessert. Mm. So I will say, even though this is a rye, this is an unusual rye. It's one of the few that have so much wheat in it, so it's only 60% rye itself. And then the other 40% is wheat. So you're not going to get as much spice out of this, and there's going to be some more sweetness to it than you would typically find in a rye. It's just like vanilla with dark chocolate cherry. Just feels very comforting, like a nice little treat, but nothing too sweet. Definitely more caramely. I mean, it's got a darker color to it, so it didn't state how much they char the barrels that they're using, but I feel like it's got to be a pretty decent char. So now that I've let it have a moment to breathe and open up a little, give it a sip. It just has this delightful, like thick, sort of substantial nature to it. So when you take that first sip, I mean, I think people refer to it as like a whiskey you can chew on, right? It just feels like there's something there. And it's just, I know I said cherry in the nose of it, but when you actually taste it, it's like this lovely dried orange and not like the rind, like it's not that bitter. It's just like the fruit, but not really sweet. Like even though you have the extra wheat in there to bring sweetness to it, you don't really notice that right away. At least I don't feel like I do. You just have this lovely sort of dried orange, vanilla, just heavy, wonderful sensation just coat your mouth. And since this is a rye, you do get that nice like white pepper sort of heat flavor to it. It's nice and warming. This really feels like November vibes, right? Like it's definitely cold, maybe a little dreary. You need something to kind of pick you up. Might even be a little chilly, but you're trying to have a fire. Maybe it's the middle of the day, right? Because you can't do it at night. So you're just out there. You need something to warm you up. Something with all of those wonderful fall spices, like the heavier fall spices, when you're getting into making like the Christmas cake and you have the spiced spiced nuts and everything. You're kind of getting into that territory, right? Like you're not sick of it yet. You're just it feels sort of new because you haven't had it in so long. What seems kind of crazy to me about the finish is even though it comes on so heavy and it's substantial and it's got that spice and it really sort of gets you, it doesn't feel like it lingers for too long, right? Like it's not sitting there forever. It just fades nicely and it doesn't take too long, you know what I mean? So you're ready to have your next sip. So it's definitely one that you're not really going to sit and savor forever because the flavor doesn't linger that long. But it's just so nice. I think it'd be, yeah, I think that's why I didn't have any for a while. Like I got the bottle and then I had some over the winter and then it became spring into summer and I just sort of moved on a bit. And when I saw this still in the cabinet, I was like, oh, I definitely need to use this for a video because summer's going to end eventually. We're getting into the fall. It's going to be all right. I'll have to get a new bottle. I have to go on a pilgrimage to Journeyman Distillery. So the distillery is really cool, actually. They have this large facility up there, and it used to be an old factory where the guy who started the factory was like a staunch prohibitionist. So I can only imagine he's like turning in his grave a little bit. I know they said they've really tried to preserve a lot of the historical aspects of the building, and they're really in touch with like the local community, and they have paid homages to its history. But I don't know, man. I feel like the dude who started this factory might be a little, I don't know, a little unhappy with what's going on. But we're very happy. This is delightful, so no complaints at all. But they actually used to make corsets there, and the name is a little bit of a nod to that history. So the original name of this was after the neighborhood where the rye was first produced. The very first little bit of whiskey that was distilled was a rye, and they named it after the Ravenswood neighborhood. A little bit of legal trouble, so it has been renamed. So if you did try this years ago, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, is this new? Not super new, it's the same thing, just renamed. I mean, that was a little while ago. They said there's still, oh yeah, so there's a little RR on the back of the bottle, homage to the original name. But it's kind of wild. Like the guy who started this distillery went on a trip to Scotland, made a BFF, like, I don't know. I feel like you have to be a BFF if you go as far together as these two did later in life. So they met in Scotland. They were doing this whole little tour of golf and whiskey. They met at St. Andrews, and the other guy he met, I feel bad. I'm like spacing on his name, but um, he had designed some golf course, took his golf course money, went back to Tasmania, started his own distillery, and then this dude was like, I love it. I want my own distillery. I mean, it probably wasn't that simple. It's the huge thing to do, as I've alluded to in other videos. Like, my God, if you have an idea for a whiskey, you can go to places and get it made. But it's next level. If you take matters into your own hands, you want to be the one doing the distilling, you want to be the one doing the aging, you want to be taking all of that into your own hands. So that was back in 2010 when he started the distillery. And they did eventually move on. They needed more space. They found that wonderful facility in Three Oaks, Michigan, started there, bought part of the factory, expanded. So there are wonderful places to stay. They've turned it into a whole wedding venue. If you're into golf, like that guy's buddy who designed golf courses, I mean, can you imagine? That would be so much fun. And also, like combining those two things, like whiskey, golf, I don't know. It sounds like a pretty good life right there. They added something to the facility, to the distillery grounds. It's a bit of a destination, right? Like you can go there and stay, you can have an event, you can do a wedding, and they have what is considered the largest putting green in the world not associated with a golf course. It's one of the top 10 in the world, that, including putting greens that are associated with golf courses. But since they met at St. Andrews, they've designed this wonderful, huge putting green area, and it's inspired by the St. Andrews golf course itself, which terrifies me, honestly. My putting is terrible. I enjoy going to Topgolf. I enjoy pretending like I can do other aspects of the game. There's no pretending with putting. I mean, if I go to like a mini golf, maybe I can handle that, but I couldn't imagine. So we'll see. I don't know if I'll be bold enough because you have to pay a little money to get on the putting green because it's huge and it's amazing. So we'll see. I mean, if there's anywhere to work on your game, that's probably a good place to go. So there's this whole wonderful facility. They've expanded into another facility in Valparaiso, Indiana, What's so crazy, so I didn't know this, I guess the Orville Redenbacher popcorn, everyone knows him for popcorn. It's so Orville Redenbacher is from the Valparaiso area, or has like serious ties to it for the company. They took popcorn and used that to help make the whiskeys. You know how some will be like, oh, we've got some wheat, we've got some corn, we've got no, they've got popcorn. They popped it. Apparently, it had like buttery notes. It tasted like actually, I don't know. It sounds delightful, and I missed out. So they're super creative. They're doing all kinds of like fun, unique launches. I kind of want to get out there and see what's going on. Maybe a nice fall trip. If you've been there, let me know some good places to stay in the area. I kind of feel like it's more than just a day trip. Like I don't want to leave in the morning, futz around for a couple of hours, and then have to turn around and leave when I'm just getting going. Like, what if by some miracle my putting game and no, that's not going to happen. That would literally be a miracle. But no, I think it'd be fun to stay in the area for a little while. They've really built it out. The space is supposed to be super cute, so we'll see. We'll get out there, try some more of their offerings. They have rum. They've got vodka. What's also crazy is they went through the whole process of becoming not only certified organic, so they're one of the few certified organic distilleries in America. They've also gone and gotten kosher certification. I didn't realize how much of a thing that would be, but they said once you've gone through the organic process to get certified for organic, it's really not that much more work to become kosher. So they just went for it. Like, that's pretty cool. I do know if the owners themselves were Jewish, like in Buffalo Trace's case, so they're another kosher, or some of their offerings are kosher, not all of them, because there's a whole extra level of complication if you yourself is the business owner or Jewish. Like you're not allowed to own the grains if they've been leavened, and the yeast, once you add it, is like so anyway, there's a lot more steps. I'll get into that. I think it'd be fun to do a Buffalo Trace video and try some of their kosher whiskeys. Can't say I've ever had any of those from Buffalo Trace, but I've tried maybe just one whiskey from Buffalo Trace. I'm missing out. Let me know if you have any favorites because they have different grain offerings. They've got like corn, wheat, a rye. So let me know what to try first. So yeah, there's a lot going on at the Journeyman Distillery, and I can't wait to try some more of their offerings. I don't think I'm gonna try any of their gin. I don't know. And rum is maybe not my favorite, but there is a vodka, so I'd be willing to try a vodka. Let me know if there's any other unique whiskeys that they have offered that are still available that I should try out. But in the meantime, their flagship offering is just perfect for fall. I absolutely love it. It's got like that nice substantial component to it, right? So you're gonna take a sip and just it's not so light. Like you really feel like you're getting something. It's spicy, it's warming, but it's not too far in the warming category where I think some bourbons can go. So that's one thing I like about rye. You get the spice, you get the heat, but it's a little tempered, like it's not too over the top. It's wonderfully enjoyable. So if you enjoyed this and got something out of it, please give the video a thumbs up. And if whiskey's your jam, consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys in the next page of The Little Black Whiskey Book.